If you're watching this, chances are you're a dirty degenerate like me. You spent hours or maybe even thousands of hours on video games in your life. Maybe you're still playing, maybe you've managed to quit. Whatever the case may be, I actually founded a lot of my productivity to nets and bases and the main things that I actually preach based on video game logic, most specifically League of Legends logic. So we're going to talk about 4 principles that I learned from this game, even if you still play, or if you just played previously, or if you just have a brief understanding of what the game is, you will take something out of this video. I'm not like one of these nerds on YouTube, by the way. I'm not like one of these geeks who says absolutely no video games whatsoever. I still even play from time to time. I don't have a consistent habit of playing. I go months with not playing sometimes, and I go weeks playing, and it kind of changes up. But when I do, I always notice things that are very, very similar to life and productivity and shit like this. So this is what I'm going to shed light on in this instance, how League of Legends is actually very productive in some senses, and not playing the game itself. Although maybe you can make an argument for that in very specific circumstances, but some examples in the game actually lead us closer to an understanding of productivity. So the first thing is how you max your skills in a specific order. If you've ever played the game, you know that what the game wants you to do usually is to max one skill at a time. If you're playing a champion that has a very low cooldown predominant skill on its Q, for example, this is the one you're going to max. Now the way you max it is very, very specific. So you go 1 point into this, which makes it you can use the ability. Then you go 1 point into this maybe, and then you go 2 points into this, then you go 1 point into this, then you go 3 points into this. So this is the main priority. Besides everything else, you have all these other abilities, but all you're doing is keeping these at a baseline. So putting 1 or 2 points into these just as much as they require. And this is very, very similar to the concept of essentialism. So what essentialism basically is imagine you as a circle. This is you and your energy. And if you put it all around into different areas of life, and you have all of these arrows leading out of you, and these arrows symbolize different areas. Maybe you're talking to your friends often, maybe you have a pet who you need to take on walks every day, maybe you have a side hustle, maybe you have a job, maybe you have a hobby or something, maybe you listen to a bunch of music and you keep up to date with politics, and now you have 7 arrows of medium length going in every single way. This would be putting 1 point into Q, 1 point into W, 1 point in E, another into Q, another W, another E, then putting in the point in R, and just keeping everything at a steady basis. And although it's not a bad approach, but the thing is, people who understand that some skills are more important than others in different phases of the game will shit on you. In real life, if you focus on something that isn't as important in your age and in your personal circumstance, in your personal scenario, you're going to get shit on. People are going to have a better life than you essentially, and that's by your own standards as well. I don't mean to generalize here. So instead, if we apply the concept of essentialism and we're hold on, but if I have a good social network, maybe I can get favors in the future, and if I just focus now on networking, maybe that will pay dividends in the future. Or if we say, okay, hold on, if I got money now and I got a stable income while I'm young, in the future, it will be much easier for me to learn hobbies because now I can pay for private coaches. So you understand the same logic applies here. If we max out one skill and put all of our points into this and max it out before we go on to any of these substantially, and we just go 1 arrow, but a big arrow at a time, we're going to get more progress done overall. So this is very important. And by the way, as you know probably from the game, or if you just paid attention to how I was demonstrating it, we were still putting points into these things. We were putting 1 or 2 points into these kind of things here and there, just to keep them up on a standard level. So we're not neglecting things, and this is very important. Because what we want to do is we want to go in other arrows as well. We want to go in different directions. So we have these small arrows here. Maybe I should have drawn them even smaller, but these are supposed to be medium-sized arrows in this example, in the first example. And in the second example, these are very small arrows, the other ones at least. This is one big one, one huge one, and the other ones are just to keep it up, to have a social life where our brain doesn't degrade while we focus on work, or the other way around, where we have some money while we're building our network. You understand the concept. So what we're trying to do is just keep these skills leveled kind of up, but not too high. And we want to keep this skill, the main skill, which would be this, or Q in this sense, at a very, very rapidly growing pace. Because in this sense, our brain will work in a way which is very, very advantageous to us, because this part of our brain, we call the default mode network, will actually have ideas about this thing. I mean, if you have a life where you're playing jiu-jitsu, you're watching the news, you're up to date with politics, you spend time with your family, you walk your dog, and a bunch of shit like this, you're going to get ideas all over the place. You're going to get scattered as fuck. Like, your attention is going to be in the depths of fucking hell, in the abyss. So you're going to be like, oh yeah, maybe I should do this. And then you play a bit of video games. Oh, maybe I should have picked that champion earlier that day. Oh, maybe I should said this. I should have said this person, this thing to this person. Oh, I should have voted for that political candidate. Oh, I can't believe he didn't debate this guy. It's just going to be all over the place, and you're not really going to make any significant progress in anything. However, for this guy, even in the time where he doesn't work, even in the time where he's going on a walk, maybe for his mental health, or he's, I don't know, talking with his family, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but the thing is, he will get ideas about that thing, and that will be so empowering for him. You know how we talk about shower thoughts, right? That's basically the only time nowadays in this hyper-technological age we live in when we actually have thoughts of our own. We don't have thoughts about other people implanted into our brain, because if you can imagine, if we're going on the subway and we're on our phone and we're scrolling, we're always thinking about what's in our newsfeed. Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo scored a goal. Oh, this political candidate stepped down. Oh, wow. When we have no stimulus, like in our brain right away, we're thinking about our own things. And that's when you have thoughts like, oh, I should have said that different thing to that guy. Oh, maybe I should strengthen this relationship with my friend. Oh, maybe I'm going down the wrong path in my career. Holy fuck. Now, those are thoughts that matter. So once you're in this mode and you're in the shower, and that's when like your personal stuff takes over. That's when you start to think about these arrows, the effort you're putting into different areas, and just things that happen in your own life. And if the main thing that happens in your life is your work, or your networking, or whatever the fuck you're prioritizing, you will think about this. And even, like, this is why it advances not just, this isn't just the addition of all of these arrows, this is like much bigger. This is like twice as big as these arrows together. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying here? So this matters a lot, because not only will you work and you will get done a lot more, your attention won't be scattered, you'll be more focused when you work, and when you don't work, you will get more ideas. So maxing one thing at a time is definitely the way to go in real life as well. The second thing, which is extremely important if you want to live an optimized and productive lifestyle, is understanding how different champions are stronger at different parts of the game. So this is early game, and our champion here is very bad. Like, the red is supposed to resemble their performance is quite bad at this stage. In mid game, that's when they spike hardly. That's when they have a power spike for whatever reason, and that's when they're really strong. And late game, they're like meh. They're like okay. They're like quite average. This is like I don't know, maybe like Bard, for example, from League of Legends. That might be a champion that resembles this kind of thing, but for others it might be like they're super strong in the early game, and then they're kind of average in the mid game, and then they're horrible in the late game. That would be like Volibear on Olaf maybe. And you know, these champs have all different cycles, and they are all stronger and power spiking, and they have different levels of strength and different levels of things they want to do in the game at different times. And us humans are no different. Really, you might have heard of the circadian rhythm, which basically says that your body has a clock and it's keeping track of time, and when you should sleep is during your circadian rhythm's nighttime, because that's when you get the best sleep, that's when you'll be more likely to fall asleep, etc, etc. Most of us conceptualize of this as like a clock, and maybe this is 12 p.m, maybe this is like 6 a.m, 12 a.m, and 6 p.m. And we think that, okay, my body clock says between this time, between like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I should be asleep. Okay, cool. That's the circadian rhythm. It's wrong. That's not the approach to go about it, because it isn't actually a circadian rhythm, or it is a circadian rhythm, but that is only a subset of something much bigger, which is called the ultradian rhythm. The ultradian rhythm is pretty much your body clock throughout the day. Ultradian rhythm basically means the same thing as circadian rhythm. As I said, the circadian is a subset of the ultradian, and basically all your hormones go in like cycles of 90 minutes around the day. This is the sleepiness hormone, also the melatonin, which we mainly focus on when we're talking about the circadian stuff. But the thing is, this applies the same thing for like your awareness hormone, your hunger signals even, to some extent, not entirely. That's controlled by a lot of other things as well, but how aware you are when you feel awake, all of these kind of stuff. And for example, just in League of Legends, some champions have hard-coded statistics, like they don't scale that well. Putting points into a certain ability, like we said here, is better than putting points into the last ability. And when they max Q and W, maxing E for that champion doesn't do much. So they don't really like going too late in the game, because then they're forced to max E. And they don't really get that much out of that. And just like us, just like they have like hard-coded kind of stats in the game, which they can't really change, we also have genetics. And there are genes like the per3, for example, the clock gene. I think there's also a BMAL one. What else? There's the cry genes, cry 1 and 2. These genes, all of these, are like genetic. You can't really change them. And these are all chronotype specific. So if you have one, you could say that maybe you're this chronotype, maybe you're a bear, maybe you're a lion, etc., etc. And you would know what kind of sleep patterns you need to do in order to get the best performance out of yourself and be the most energetic. And just like in League of Legends, if you're one specific type of champion, you need to behave one certain way. And this is why I fucking hate all of these YouTubers telling you that, oh, you need to be a morning person because before the morning, before noon, all the time you work doubles and it works, it's so much, it's so important. And the other one says, no, you need to stay up late at night because that's when you get the best ideas. None of them make any fucking sense because they all only operate from their own experiences and they can't actually relate to you as the consumer. They don't know you. So they give you this kind of advice that isn't fucking personalized. And what I'm saying here is that you cannot take their words for what they are because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. We all have different genes. And these different genes make us perform in different times at different levels. So you should probably take a test. Go take a chronotype test. If you can, pay for a lab test and actually look at what kind of genes you have. If you can know these specifically, that's even better. But as I said, not only does this work for your chronotype, you will have elevated levels of cortisol maybe at sometimes. Like there's a stress hormone. You also need it to be like awake. So if you get cortisol like quite late in the morning, you're also going to be like sleepy and groggy in the morning. So again, that's a double-edged sword. And you're going to be more aware at different times. I'm just saying this so maybe your best work time is here from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Maybe it is. Maybe for someone else, it's around this time, right after they wake up. Maybe they get a rush of cortisol as they wake up. Maybe they do a few push-ups even to enhance it. And maybe that's just when they are genetically wired to be the best. Now, this can change over time. Most of it is genetic, and people have come to the strong consensus over many meta-analyses and studies that this can't entirely be changed because some of it is genetic, as you see here, but it can be kind of taught to you. If you do it for like years and years and years and your family's always woken up at this time, it's probably the best to follow it. But as you can imagine, evolutionarily, it makes sense that other people different to us are waking up and staying awake at different times because as you can imagine, in hunter-gatherer like times, some people had to like wake up early at night or in the middle of the night just to keep watch to make sure that our fucking family didn't get mauled by bears. So it's very important that we develop this way. And it makes perfect sense if you think about it, that some of us would like to be in this middle type, some of us would be awake during this time, maybe they would have like biphasic sleep and sleep at these times, like here, from like 8 to 2, and then from 2 to 8 or something. Or 4 to 8, and they had like 2 hours awake here, or someone just went to sleep very early, or someone went to sleep very late. And we just have different times, and you need to understand what you are, how you operate throughout the day. Are you the best in the middle of the day? Are you the worst in the beginning of the day? Are you okay at night? Maybe you should put your physical and mental top, like when you're supposed to be at the top cognitively and physically during the middle of the day. Maybe after lunch, maybe right before lunch, maybe even better because you're not going to be digesting, and digesting is the single most energy-consuming function that the body can possibly perform. So just think about it and actually experience this, and maybe you should have like a notepad with you around the day and set alarms, because a lot of people who are successful did this. They actually had alarms every 5 minutes or every 15 minutes, and they wrote down what they were doing and how they were feeling for a few days. After you do this for a few days, and those days are pretty much the same, you're keeping the same routine, you will understand when and how you feel. When I did a chronotype test, they were asking me, when do you feel awake? When do you feel you need caffeine, etc., etc.? When do you feel groggy in the morning? I didn't really know because we're not really checked into our bodies. We're not really that mindful throughout the day. And now I could tell you to do meditation, and yeah, you should be doing that. But the thing is, if you just do this for a few days, and if you just ask yourself every single day, every single 10 minutes that passes by, or 10 or 15 or whatever the fuck, how do I feel? And you like check in with yourself. For a few days, you will understand that, okay, between 2 and 4 p.m., I feel really sharp. That's when I should probably work. And if you can get this time zone for yourself and understand if you're early game focused or late game focused or whatever, you will win. Because all of these people who are forcing themselves to work at some time because they saw it in a YouTube video are stupid. Like there's nothing more stupid than that. And of course you can be forced to work at a certain time in your job. The two things you can do is, one, just like kind of push your work towards that time period if it overlaps. So if you work from 9 to 5 but you know that you're best late afternoon, just try, like, I don't know, go take your lunch break quite early, or go to the toilet quite early, and just focus on doing the work actually from like 3 to 5 p.m. Or a lot of jobs offer like 0-hour contracts, or kind of contracts that you can actually assign your own hours. Try to do that if you can. Or if you work a business, then obviously just literally work when you're the best. There's no excuse to do otherwise. Okay, the third thing is that there is one ultimate goal to destroy the Nexus in League of Legends, but there's 1,000 ways to do that. You could go with a split push strategy where you just chomp on the fucking towers all game and you stay on top. And you could also go for the objectives, slay the dragons first and get all of the objectives and make sure your team is stronger. You could try to run them down early game and get as many kills as possible and just not give them a chance to scale. Or you could scale yourself, stall the game, make sure if your champions are like late game focused, then just make sure you get there and then actually just run them down. There's 1,000 ways. 1,000 ways to end the game, 1,000 ways to skin a cat. And it's the same for everyone. We're all different. And this is kind of leading on from the second example, but the people will try to tell you, oh no, you need to do this strategy in life because this works. Okay. How do you know it works for me? Is it like an objective strategy? Are you God? Like, can you tell me? How do you know that it will work for me? And even if it does work, do I want it? Do I want to win that way? We play different champions in League of Legends because we enjoy them. We enjoy different champions. There's like 160 or 70 or 80 or God knows how many now. We don't play all of them. We just play a subset, maybe about 10 of them, maybe, at most. We don't really enjoy playing with that much variety because we know what we are like as people, and we know that we want different things. And it's okay to want different things. So anytime someone tries to shove something stupid down your throat, tell them to fuck off. If you ask for their advice and they give you some quality advice and you know that they're a trusted source and you know that you are like them, then sure, maybe take it with a grain of salt and experiment. But as a matter of fact, like quitting things that you tried and you gave it a shot and you gave it a fair shot, which you should do, by the way. But after you gave it a fair shot, maybe a new hobby, maybe a business model, maybe whatever it may be, after you'd noticed that, okay, this isn't really me, after you actually tried it and you know that you're not coping and you're like, okay, but hold on, this isn't really me, I don't really feel fulfilled here. Why didn't you stop? Like, you get the chance to quit. You can live life however you want. And I know this is a bit deep, but you can do whatever the fuck you want. And I hope you realize that. But by the time you finish this video, I really want you to come to the realization that people are going to try to shove shit down your throat constantly. This is what life is about. Usually it's because they're motivated financially, but people are going to tell you what to do and how to play the game and how to end and how to destroy the Nexus. But you can do it anyway. People will tell you to buy a specific item in League of Legends, to buy, I don't know, the Sunfire Cape or whatever the fuck. But you're playing Yumi. You didn't even get hit in the first place. Why would you do that? Why would you listen to them? They're playing an entirely different game than you. And also, it's the same game of life or the same game of League. Their play style is entirely different. Maybe you should take a text out of someone's book who you know you can trust and who's already played the game that you want to play, most specifically. Not just some random game, not just some random play style. Maybe from the exact same script that you want to go on, because people will tell you this kind of shit and you need to develop this sense to ignore it because it is bullshit. And the final point is quite similar, but it is that everyone gets sent back to the game eventually. This is a victory sign, but even if your sign at the end, your banner says defeat, it will show for like a few seconds and then you're back to the lobby. And that's what happens to anyone. And I know this is a bit deep and you might be even like a bit scared by this, but the thing is, it's quite liberating if you think about it, because people will tell you to live this way, to do this certain thing, to get into this job, into this opportunity, to be friends with this person, to love this person. And the thing is, if you do it, just think about this. You will end up the same way as they do. In a matter of time. It all just takes a matter of time. You will get to the same place that they do. Trust me on that. But the thing is, you don't have to play the same way that they do to get there. You could just choose your playstyle, as we said here. Maybe you could go for a split push, maybe you could fucking run it all down mid, maybe you could get the objective first. Maybe you could stall for late game because you're just getting started, you know. Do whatever you want, with the knowledge that you will all go back to the lobby eventually. That's what it's all about. I mean, if you know that you will all go back to the lobby eventually, that's very liberating, because no matter what you do from that point on, it doesn't really matter. And now, I'm not trying to get all spiritual and religious with this shit, but the thing is, if you know that fact, that you're going to go back to the lobby eventually, that will give you permission to do whatever the fuck you want now. Because you're not listening to daddy anymore, and you're not listening to how he wants you to live your life. You're not listening to anyone else who tells you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Because that is living someone else's life. That is living someone else's playstyle. And if you know that playing their playstyle and your playstyle eventually will lead here, the only difference is that you may not enjoy that playstyle that much. So you know that in 40 minutes, or however long, 40 years, 80 years, hopefully, you're going to get sent back to the lobby. Those few years, or few minutes in this case, you might as well enjoy it. And if you're playing someone else's game, you might not enjoy it as much as if you were to play your own game and actually skill the skill points that you want to skill and play for the game state that you want to play in and play the playstyle you want to play. So it's really up to you in the end. And that is very, very... I don't know the correct word for this. Liberating. Alleviating. It's a very nice feeling to know this, because from that point on you can choose whatever the fuck you want to do, however the fuck you want to do it, and you get much more productive. Because the truth is, you won't waste time on bullshit anymore. You won't waste time on doing someone else's game, because that is the biggest regret of people. People will live their life and be like, wait, hold on, I lived someone else's life. I didn't strengthen the relationships I wanted to strengthen because I thought that this was the way I was supposed to go. I didn't go into the career that I wanted. I didn't take the opportunities I wanted. I didn't make the investments I wanted because I thought that this was just how to do it. And even though that didn't seem like the objectively good play at that time, I didn't do it. I mean, I did do it. But that was because I didn't listen to my heart. So this is getting a bit wishy-washy at the end. But the point is just, you will go back to the lobby no matter what. You might as well fucking enjoy the process.